Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy. Here we are in our study on the supernatural. We're in, I believe it's getting toward the end of May on a Tuesday, I think 23rd.
Yeah, May 23rd.
And we're excited to work through this. We've gone through a couple of months of prayer. What prayer was, and we had some great questions, by the way, that came up about the Nashville tragedy and about tongues and how is it that we have to experience this difficult place and trouble, and what does all that involve, and is there really what's there, and we've talked about how beautiful it is that we have the privilege of just having dialogue with God all the time. Connect with Him. He said, pray without ceasing, which is just live your life with me and enjoy me. And just like you and Dan, or me and Linda, is that when we're together, we spend a lot of time together. And we're married, we're connected, and we know at any point in time, we can either converse, call, discuss, and he can, our spouses can call, discuss, and intervene for us. And that's really, he said, that's the picture of life, and that is that just walk with me and enjoy me, and we'll be in fellowship together. And that's His privilege for us. And then we've talked about that as he processes that, and this is why we're elevating this to a different new level, is the invitation is to join Him in His supernatural work, which He wants to demonstrate and bear witness to the truth that He's real. And think about it in a really simple way, that if it's not proven real, really,
right,
in our life, then we tend to kind of drift away from even any significance of it, even though we can say, well, I believe in Christ, and I know I'm a believer, and I know where I'm going to be in eternity. And I do go to church, and I worship Him, on Sundays, and listen to the Word. But I really don't have much of a life with Him, and I certainly don't understand what it means to surrender my will to His, or that I would experience things beyond the normal, that it seems foreign to me. And he says, well, that's why our ministry is so important, is, come and see. Finding truth in a world of chaos is, the way to see is to be with Him. And abiding in relationship, and it's beautiful, and everything about it is beautiful and wonderful, and it's not hokey, and it's not strange, and there's not some spiritual secret that only a few people get. It's live this beautiful, natural life. And the reason that we're using the Gospels is that it's really identifiable about how it worked with, in a sense, normal people like the disciples in normal situations. And none of it, there's nothing in there that puts it into a strange category. They didn't walk into a town and hit people in the forehead and have them fall over. It was just God at work, in a beautiful, wonderful way. Here's Linda. She's coming in during our broadcast. So good to see you, Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Yeah. Where are you headed?
I'm going down.
Okay. Well, you're in the shot. So.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. See you later.
It is always good to see her, though. She's such a joy.
Yeah. It's always a surprise, right? See you, honey. We happen to be at the Biltmore, which is where we're taping. get ahead, because you and I are going to be going on some trips here coming up.
Right. So we have a whole month of non-taping, really, that we've got to accommodate for.
We did a retreat on the East Coast, and so the Biltmore is a special place for our family, and particularly for Linda and I. So we're having a great, wonderful time. So we're spending a little bit of time taping this. So as we discuss this, it's joining God in this beautiful thing, and we're going to use the Gospels. Last time we explained that we have questions of Jesus about this that we all can identify with, which is, are you really willing to do this for me? Is there a system that we got to follow? If it really is involving it, can you involve me personally? Usually our question, which is what my big question was, is that, why even bother? Nothing seems to matter. Circumstances seem to do what they're going to do, and it is what it is, and why bother? And then if there's any truth to his goodness, could he possibly help me in this scenario? And our answers to these is always, usually, probably not, and they're kind of identifiable. So on this next session, which has happened to me, is God says, well, I got some questions of you.
Right.
And let's see where we sit on those, and then I'm going to start to reveal to you answers to your questions, and I'm going to draw you into the truth of following me in spite of your questions, my questions for you. So I would urge you.
Just insert,
go ahead. Yeah.
As we're heading into this, this is the essence of our podcast name, right? Come and see.
Yeah.
I know there are people sitting in that same spot of doubt and questioning and everything else, and I love that you've laid out our questions that we have to him, and then his response, some questions he has to us as he walks us into this. And I think I would just challenge everybody who's listening right now, if you are sitting in a place of doubt or questioning or whatever, not to ignore that that's where you're at, but instead to take that to his feet and say, this is an invitation we're teeing up, that God is teeing up to you to come and see. What does he have to say about this? How does he walk us into this? With all the misuse and misrepresentation that has been out there, yet the word says this is real. I think it's this beautiful place for us to truly come and see and be willing to let him walk us in. Just like last week, you shared this beautiful story of your doubt and God saying, hey, just come along, because I'm going to show you some things.
Yeah.
And the start of your journey. And I know I had a very similar journey in that, where he just invited me, and he's like, okay, I know because of your past and what you've grown up with, you've got me in this box, but are you willing to come and see?
Right.
And I'm going to show you some things. And so I would just challenge everybody in this moment to ask God to open our hearts to be willing to come and see as we step into all of this.
Yep. And the because we know something, this is interesting. The people that we've helped learn to abide, particularly our leaders that we get to be around a lot, it's not even there. It's not even a system. Well, you got to learn this first, and that second, and this third, and
right.
It's just, well, come and learn to just be with him. He'll guide you. And because of life, everyone that is abiding is going to come up to this point, because he says, my will, which you're learning to follow,
right,
is going to be supernatural.
Yeah.
And I know you have questions about this, and I'm going to prove it out. I'm going to demonstrate it. I'm going to persuade you. And we can safely say, because we get to, and this is one of the joys of our fellowship, by the way.
Right.
When we get together, we're not saying, woe is me.
Right.
We say, I have some issues. There's things going on. There's things that are troublesome. There's adversity. There's big decisions. There's what we call sticky wickets. So it's all there, and we understand it's all there, but the conversation doesn't go to, well, too bad.
Right.
I hope you get comforted through it, and as opposed to sharing the amazing work of God to bring resolution to those things, so that while we're in it again, it's like, well, let's go see together what God has to say. we all experience supernatural because that's part of the life of God. And it's such a beautiful thing. And so, and think of the disciples, which is something that struck me when he was teaching me this. And I was at a place where I was, again, highly skeptical. He said, well, did the disciples know anything about this? No.
Right.
Well, how do you think they came to know it? I walked him through it. I walked him into it.
Step by step.
I had him experience it, demonstration, experiencing. They had to have a heart to receive it. By the way, there was in John 6:60, there was a group that said, when he said, "You got to eat my body and drink my blood," they said, "Well, this is
thanks, I'm out."
he's a cult leader. This is strange." And they were experiencing supernatural stuff, which is why they were there.
Right.
But that's enough. We're out. And they missed out on being persuaded that the supernatural was normal because they left, and he let them go. Okay, you got to have a heart to follow, but my disciples did, and they did. So Rich, he says, I know you're skeptical, and that's why the questions that we talked about last time, are legitimate. His questions to us are going to come back. They're legitimate. And he says, let's understand where that is. He said it's okay that it stands there. He said, but I would like you to come and learn of it, and have a heart to learn of it. And let me walk you into it step by step, and take all your questions you got. And then I'm going to put you in a position where you're going to have to answer some questions about what you think and believe. So that's what we're going to spend today. And I would urge everybody on these, because we're going to kind of go back when we get finished this section, which probably take a couple of times, is to go back over and see which of these tend to stand out where we struggle with the most. So I would urge you to write them down, and then we'll come back to it. So the first one is in Matthew 8:26.
It says, "But he said to them, 'Why are you fearful, O you of little faith?' Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm." Yeah.
So they're in the middle of trouble, and their response, and by the way, Jesus is with them. This is not going to work. We're all going to die. Basically, is what they're saying.
Right.
And he says, "Well, why are you so fearful, O ye of little faith?" And the fear here goes deeper than just fear of the trouble, because that's fundamental. Why are you so afraid of life, of the things that happen in life? Remember, he said you're not going to be absent of that, but why are you so afraid of it? And by the way, the answer on the surface is because you think there's nothing that can be done about it. So why are you afraid of it? And then two is, why are you fearful of even finding out?
That's good.
Why are you so sure that you think you know when you maybe don't? And that's one of the. This is one of the big questions that came to me was, why are you so afraid to even walk with me to learn it? And there was but in skepticism and all this, he says, well, why would that keep you from learning it?
Right.
So why are you afraid, O ye of little faith? Okay, Matthew 9:4.
Sure. Matthew 9:4 says, "But Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, 'Why do you think evil in your hearts?'"
Yeah. So they're saying, this isn't going to happen, or this shouldn't be happening. And he says, well, why do you think evil in your heart? And the word evil here is, why do you think that the difficulty can't be overcome? And it's so weird that it can't be overcome. Why have you accepted the normal, or not the normal, but the natural, as the way that life is going to go? And you think this. That's how you think.
right. And this comes back as you're sharing that, just to remind everybody where you're getting from that question. That word for evil is not this dark demonic. This is the annoyance, distraction, all of these sort of things. So it's the translation, just making sure everybody understands the translation is what brings what Rich just spoke out of this question.
Yeah. You're not thinking demonic. You're thinking that the difficult circumstances are not going to be overcome, and you're going to be living in this annoying, frustrating, irritating thing that you just can't overcome. He said, why do you think that that's the way it's going to go? And your thought life is that way, which we know why. Okay, so go then to Matthew 9:23.
Matthew 9:28, I believe.
28. Sorry, I printed it out, but it's a little bit faint. So Matthew 9:28.
And when he had come into the house, the blind man came to him, and Jesus said to them, "Do you believe that I am able to do this?" And then they said to him, "Yes, Lord."
That's good. Yeah. So, okay, we have difficulty, and a question that immediately comes to us is, well, do you believe that I can do this? And it's a fundamental question, that we have to answer, because if we say, I really don't, then you have a little bit further to go to have to understand that his answer is different than that. And of course, we've already talked about that. Maybe I believe you can. I doubt if you will, but at least I think you maybe can. But even then, he says,
I've never seen you do it for me.
Yeah, or any of my friends. So do you really think that I'm able, to do this? Which, okay, think about this. If he's able to do supernatural, what must I believe about his ability to do supernatural?
That he can do all of it.
That he can do it. That nothing stands in the way. So there's no limitation to that. And he's saying, do you believe I have the power to do this? Well, okay, then if you do, then let's go learn it. Okay. Matthew 14:31.
Okay, Matthew 14:31 says, and immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?"
Yeah, and so remember before he said, "Why are you afraid, ye of little faith?" Here he's saying, "Ye of little faith, why do you doubt?" Okay, now just think of that word. If I said to you, hey, God is going to, solve, Dan's problem with his customer, and your reaction is, I doubt it.
Right.
Okay, what would that say?
That really is showing a lack of faith and a lack of having heard directly from God what he would do.
Yeah, and your basic premise when you say I doubt it is what? It ain't gonna happen.
I don't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. This likely isn't gonna happen. Now I kind of doubt it, because you don't go with I'd like to know if that's true. You've already decided. I doubt it.
Right.
That ain't gonna happen. And you've already concluded something. And if you've concluded it, which is why he's challenging us, is that if you've already concluded, I doubt it, then you really don't have a heart to learn it.
Right.
Because you've already concluded that you doubt it. And he said, why are you doubting it? And of course, the answer is going to be easy. Well, because I've never seen it.
Right.
He said, yeah, I know. But, why don't you learn, and why do you doubt it? Okay, this next one, this is really interesting. This one really hit me too. Is Matthew 20:32.
So Jesus stood still and called them and said, "What do you want me to do for you?"
Yeah. A lot of times, and this is interesting. I was in this boat, and a lot of people, when I talk to her in this boat, is, well, I don't see God doing supernatural things in the general or the body of Christ or in the church or in life. So if he's gonna do that, how come they don't happen in a big way? And his question back to us is, okay, this was a direct question to me, by the way. Well, okay, what do you want me to do for you?
Right.
Exactly what do you want me to do for you? And it kind of brought it down into, if I'm going to prove the supernatural, well, it's going to be involving your life.
Right.
So don't make it global. What do you want me to do for you?
Oh, that's good.
Interesting. So we're going to look at that one. Okay, go to Mark 3:4 now.
Sure. Mark 3:4 says, "Then he said to them, 'Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?' But they kept silent."
Yeah. So, they said, "Is there a system?" And he turns it right back and says, "Well, forget about the system. Is this a good thing to do or not?" And what he's saying is that, isn't it, when you think of what you just asked me, and by the way, follow me, what do you want me to do for you? He says, don't you think it's normal to resolve the issue that you got? Isn't that how you think? Now, you try to do it on your own, but that's how you think. Isn't it normal that this should happen? If really you're there to resolve my issues, wouldn't it be normal that I would? See?
For resolution to come, yeah.
For resolution. And for me to do it, I'm going to have to do things that you can't do. Otherwise, in a sense, why bother with me?
Right.
Go do it. If you can solve it yourself, then go solve it. Which, by the way, a lot of us think. And he says, so isn't it normal that this would be my heart and this is what I can do for you? Okay. Go to Mark 5:30.
Mark 5 verse 30 says, "And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself the power had gone out of him, turned around in the crowd and said, 'Who touched my clothes?'"
Yeah. So he said that there's going to be times when actually you're going to have access to this power. Do you have a heart to access this power? Who did this? Who had the courage to access my power? He said, because it's here. And do you have and we're going to get into this story, later. But on what basis did this woman access that power? He said, well, do you have the heart to do that? Do you have the heart to go after it? In other words,
right.
And this is another question I had to me when I was learning this: is that, do you have the courage to stay with me to learn the availability and the access and the accessioning of my power? Do you even have the courage to consider that? And so that's a big question. Okay, and then we'll go to Matthew 6:33. And this, by the way, is several places in Scripture, but we'll just use this one, Matthew 6:33.
Okay. This is out of order. That's okay, right?
Yeah. Or you can.
I'm seeing Mark 6:38.
Oh yeah. Just do. Mark 6:38, not Matthew.
Okay. Yeah,
Mark
just to make sure. I
6:38.
know your printing is not that good on there, so I just wanted to make sure where we were at.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. Mark 6:38 says, "But he said to them, 'How many loaves do you have? Go and see.'"
Yeah. So.
And when they found,
So this is the feeding of the 5,000, and hey, how are we going to solve this problem? And one of the questions that Jesus asks is, well, what do you got? So that's an interesting question. Again, it may involve something that you already have. that I'm going to use in the supernatural. So again, this is part of the whole concept of the be careful not to put it into a system. Well, we got a problem here. How are you going to solve this? And his immediate question to his disciples, which would be to us, well, what do you got?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Where are you, in other words, with this? What's available right now that I can actually take the context of your life and do something with it?
Right.
So don't put it in a complete box that has nothing. And we'll share this a little bit later about, like, for example, the aspect of medicine. And we'll talk. I'll talk about this later. About I'd gotten into this as I was starting to learn that. I kind of flipped it almost to the complete other side of it. Is then everything has to be
fully expect all supernatural.
We don't need doctors because God can do everything, right? Yeah, He can. But what do you have? I had to learn that. Wait a minute, there are things already here that I can use. Don't limit me. How I can do it, what I can do. So his first question is,
good.
Well, what do you got? Okay, and then Mark, go down to Mark 8:12.
You want to hit Mark 8:5 first?
That's the same one. It's how many loaves do you have?
It's the same one? Okay. Yeah. Mark 8:12. But he sighed deeply in the spirit and said, why does this generation assuredly I say to you, no sign shall be given to this generation.
Yeah. So he says, why are you just in general seeking a miraculous thing to prove it out to you, and what you want me to do is perform it for you to prove it, as opposed to why aren't you seeking me? And by the way you're doing it in a global way is just do something supernatural, and then I'll start to believe it, and that goes back to, well, what do you want me to do for you? And is that all you're seeking? Is just that alone, all by itself, and you're not seeking the whole life that I have available to you? So he said, so what's really your heart and your motivation for that?
That's
either to prove it as you are skeptical that it doesn't exist, or okay, then if you're going to do it, then do it, and maybe I'll follow it. And by the way, he's going to tell us later is, in spite of me doing it, you still don't believe it anyway.
Right.
Because it has to come down to be personal, for us. So we'll pick this up. We have some more questions that he's going to ask us. Hopefully you've written these down, and we'll try to summarize these for us. But it's such a beautiful return. Well, hey, I got questions of you, Jesus, and he says, well, actually, I got some questions back at you.
Yeah.
Where do you stand? So it's kind of fun to go through this.
We see ourselves in all of these questions, right? I think that's the beauty of it, is we really do see ourselves fitting into all of this, and these are places that we can wrestle out, and I'm excited to watch God unfold the answers. Yeah,
it'll be fun. So we'll pick it up next time again.
Great. Thanks so much. Thanks for sharing, and thank you for joining us. If this is raising up questions, send them in to questions@afjministry.com, and we'll be happy to talk about them.
Yep.
Have a great afternoon.
See you then.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.